Greetings and salutations, this is Jarsz, the biggest YouTuber ever! And good morning, Jarsholes! Welcome to another edition of the Daily Jarsz for Wednesday, the 1st of November. And yes, it's a new month. If you went through dry July or sober October, your favourite month is here. Can't remember November! So get out there and make sure it's a month not to remember. Today we're having a look at someone who rivals Dearth in the Charlatan Stakes, although he seems to be less successful. Like Dearth, many of Taboo Conspiracy's videos are reposts of other people's videos covered in copyright music, making it hard for we debunkers to put together a decent video. It's almost as if they don't want to be debunked. And the sheer number of blatant falsehoods that falls out of his mouth when he does speak shows that he's just another grifter. He has a series, Flat Earth Truths, which I've created my own series around called Flat Earth Lies, because every truth he speaks about is based on a lie. Got a lie to flirt? There's a link to a playlist of my videos in the description, and I'll play one of them later because it says all it needs to be said. You don't need me talking over the top. Incidentally, I've created a playlist for all the daily Jarses, and I'll group them by month. I know some like to use playlists to help them get to sleep, so now you can drift off to Nodland to my dulcet tones. That's also in the description. But before we get stuck into Taboo, I want to thank all my YouTube members. Yes, thank you once again for all the members do for me, and thanks for being part of the huge ass movement. Back to Taboo. He's had 2 channels deleted by YouTube for misinformation, and it's amazing he's managed to have his third continue for so long, given the pure drivel he keeps posting. Somehow he's managed to fool nearly 30,000 people into subscribing to him. I wonder how many did so just to laugh at his output. His channel's full of conspiracy nonsense, including about the Middle East conflict, which I don't want to get into. So let's look at the first vid, which is about how NASA is a criminal organization. He's quoting Level Earth Observer here, so I get to debunk 2 charlatans at the same time. Hang on, folks. Are you hearing that? I might have to reshare. I thought I was smart. Just one sec. I'll be with you in a sec. There we go. We should be able to hear him this time.
Hello, everyone. A big thanks to Level Earth Observer for first pointing this out. I'll have a link to his channel in the description where you can go and subscribe to his channel. I just wanted to make sure that as many people as possible see this important video evidence. This is a small but indisputable proof that NASA lied to us about their space program. A lot of people can see the obvious, that NASA lied about the moon landings. But
why is it obvious? He just says things. I hate people that just say things. Give evidence. If you're just saying it, you're trying to brainwash someone.
This confirms, without question, that NASA lied about everything else related to space. Furthermore, if NASA lied about their Gemini program, you must logically presume that NASA continues to lie about everything. You can find...
That's not very logical. I mean, there's no person who hasn't lied about something. Does that mean they lie about everything? That's just not very logical.
The original video here at around the 27-minute mark, and I'll have a link in the description. According to the official story, as narrated by one of the alleged Gemini 9 astronauts, in early June 1966, NASA's Gemini 9 spacecraft was orbiting at a speed of 18,000 miles per hour when it rendezvoused with the so-called Augmented Target Docking Adapter, or ATDA. You can read about this alleged.
I'll just give a little bit of background. So the Gemini program, or Gemini is the way NASA pronounced it for some reason. No one else pronounces that word that way, but hey, that's what they called it, so we'll go with that. It was just a program to figure out what you needed for a moonshot, basically. So it was a different type of spacecraft, but it did things like docking, because that was essential to a moon landing. This craft that they're talking about, that they're wanting to rendezvous with, well, first of all, you had to prove you could rendezvous with something else, given the speeds that are involved, the relative speeds. And that's what the sort of crocodile-looking thing is supposed to be. The hood didn't open up properly. And this was actually Gemini 9A, because B was the target vehicle. And their job was to dock so that you could prove that it could be done, and learn the things that you need to learn to be able to do it successfully every time.
Alleged NASA mission here. Here's the original video, unedited.
This is the rendezvous from above. We're coming down on the ATDA over the Indian Ocean. And so you really know you're moving. Here we're plunging down from above, and the ATDA is going across over the Indian Ocean. We've just passed the Sahara Desert. We're coming into less than 1,000 feet now.
There's no question that you're really moving at 18,000 miles an hour. There's no question that you're really moving at 18,000 miles an hour.
As you can see, while supposedly flying at 18,000 miles per hour, Gemini 9 abruptly stopped on a dime and then resumed flight and caught back up to the ATDA, all within a few seconds. That's a change of speed of approximately 36,000 miles per hour in just about 3 seconds. That certainly would have killed everyone on board. There was no...
That's correct. If you had a stop from 36,000 to 0, it would have killed everyone on board. That clearly wasn't happening. Anyway, let's continue, and I'll explain it later.
No change of camera angle. There is no excuse. This space video was faked.
Well, there was no change of camera angle relative to the spacecraft, because we always see this bit in the field of view. But there was a change of camera angle in relation to the Earth, and you see that. We'll come back to that in a minute. Just the last 30 seconds, what is it, 10 seconds. We'll see what he says.
NASA is a criminal organization, stealing your money and your soul.
So he's led to a ridiculous conclusion from basically nothing.
Thanks for watching.
That's all he's going to say. All right, so let's look at it again. Now, what I want you to focus on...
It was faked.
What's happening? So the two spacecraft are side by side, basically. He said 1,000 feet between each other. And this is out the window of the Gemini spacecraft, 9A, and it's looking at the Earth, and you see the cloud patterns here. And let's...
NASA is a criminal...
So then it stops. And then the 9B spacecraft comes into view.
Organization.
All right. So what that tells me is that the 9A spacecraft rotated. And that's what you saw as it's stopping, because relative to the Earth, the camera matched the speed over the Earth. And that's all you're seeing. And then because the 9B spacecraft was underneath the main spacecraft, it came into the field of view. But it hasn't moved relatively. It's just that the window has moved relatively.
Stealing your money and your soul. Thanks for watching.
There's no...
And we just go back again. What I want you to focus on...
Stealing your money and your soul. Thanks.
Hang on, maybe a bit more. So what I want you to focus on, at the point where the 9A spacecraft stops, look at the clouds. And you'll see that the perspective on the clouds changes slightly, indicating that it's the spacecraft sort of orientating. Have a look.
There was no change of camera angle. There is no...
Don't look at 9B. Look at the clouds that next time. And you'll see that you sort of get a sense that it's coming over the top, if you know what I mean.
On board. There was no change of camera angle.
See
There
that?
is no excuse.
It's obvious to me. I hope it's obvious to you. But yeah, he's just assumed I want it to be a conspiracy. Therefore, I'm going to interpret this in the way that it is a conspiracy. Very deceitful. Anyway, enough of that one. And level of Earth Observer debunked at the same time. 2 for 1. It's wonderful. So for the next video, I'm going to be lazy. And I'm going to show one of my videos, one of my Flat Earth Lies videos, which addresses one of Taboo's Flat Earth Truths videos about the aeronauts. And I say everything I need to say in this video, so I don't need to talk over the top. I just love that thing. Dance along, folks. Wobble your gut. Greetings and salutations, this is Jarsz, and it's time to look at the 7th video in the series from Taboo Conspiracy called Flat Earth Truths, which are in fact Flat Earth Lies. This one's called The Aeronauts. It's about balloonists. Very appropriate given Taboo's truths are full of hot air.
On May 27th, 1931, Auguste Piccard
I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
became the first man to reach the stratosphere at an altitude of 51,775 feet. That's much higher than the maximum cruising altitude of all existing commercial flights. In this popular science article, Piccard described the Earth as follows. It seemed a flat disk with upturned edge.
Well, quite frankly, I'm not surprised. It's possible Picard didn't know how to express himself. I mean, he was the first person to ever see this, so it's a bit hard to describe something that no one has ever seen before. And given he was French, perhaps something was lost in the translation. Regardless, look at this shot from Mr. Sensible's Mage 2 experiment. It's from about the same height. I'd say that description isn't too far off, wouldn't you? Taboo seems to be saying here, one person described it as a flat disk, therefore it is a flat disk. Not the strongest of arguments. But if you're inclined to listen to him, and that's all the evidence he provides, you're probably going to go with that. That's the manipulation that people like Taboo do. Don't fall for it. Demand he answers reasonable questions. Ask for empirical measurements. Something that looks like something doesn't necessarily mean it is.
Then in 1933, Russian aeronauts reached an altitude of 62,304 feet. That's higher than the maximum cruising altitude of the Concorde jet and higher than the alleged commercial flights of the MiG-29.
And in both the cases of the Concorde and the MiG, passengers report seeing the curvature of the Earth with their own eyes. I've actually spoken to several of these witnesses. Many people over 40 have at some point. Strange how you haven't mentioned this, Taboo.
This is how popular science described the aeronauts' experience. Looking down, they tried in vain to detect any curvature of the Earth's horizon. Of course, Piccard and the Russians should have seen the curvature of the Earth at those altitudes, but they didn't, even though they wanted to. Kudos to them for their honesty.
Yes, kudos to them for their honesty. Of course, you can be honestly wrong, unlike you, Taboo, who is always deceptively wrong, as I'm showing in this video series. Not being able to detect curvature doesn't mean it wasn't there. It seems that flat earthers expect to see a complete ball at any altitude. Earth is huge, and when you add cloud cover and other atmospheric distortions into the mix, it's a little hard to see where the horizon is, which makes it even harder to see curvature. To be certain that you can see curvature, you have to basically get to the Kármán line about 100 kilometers up. But regardless, this highlights a problem that flirts seem to have, apart from the one about expecting to see a ball. They don't understand the difference between seeing and perceiving. I mean, as anyone has had anything to do with the military knows, you can camouflage up so that someone could look straight at you and see you, but not perceive that there's a human there. And perhaps a more relevant example is this observation made by Rory. You can find this on mctoon.net, link in the description. If you stand on the cliff tops and look out at the ocean, you'll see the curvature of the Earth, but you won't perceive it. It'll look flat, because the Earth is huge and you were too close to it. If you do as Rory did, he set up some metal levels so that he knew they were level and that nothing would change if you compress the image horizontally. And when you do compress the image horizontally, you'll see that the apparent flat ocean is actually curved. Of course, there's no trick to this. Anyone can do it. And if you doubt this, I encourage you to do it yourself and find out for yourself. You can't get more honest than that.
Although I will be sharing high-altitude balloon footage at much higher elevations proving there is no curvature and no axial rotation, these testimonies from these unbiased aeronauts in the 1930s evince that no one you know has ever seen the curvature of the Earth belying the claims of the globe propagandists.
Well, you showed some footage. I couldn't find any frames where the horizon was horizontal, so I couldn't do the horizontal compression test to see if it actually was curved or not. And in most of the shots, the field of view is so tiny that you couldn't really see anything anyway. Luckily for Taboo, we have lots of images of the Earth's curvature. Next time, mate, put up some measurements to prove that there's no curvature. As I showed earlier, our eyes aren't good enough to perceive it sometimes, and what we see isn't always what we think it is. And as for no one you know having seen the curvature of the Earth, as Rory showed, anyone who stood on the ocean's edge and looked out has seen it. They just didn't perceive it. People who flew on Concorde or the MiG-29, they've seen it as well. Even from lower elevations you can see it, although sometimes it's a little difficult. Not to mention the number of times that surveyors have measured curvature. Again, mctoon.net is the place to go. There's a link for that in the description as well. And of course, all this actual objective empirical evidence belies the claims of the flat earth propagandists. The corgi's warming up, so if you like this video, click the like button. It really helps me out, as does leaving a comment. All right, you don't need to see the rest of that video, but you can look at the corgi if you like. Yes, I hope that sort of points out how Taboo lies about everything, basically. And the problem with debunking is they might take 2 minutes to explain their point, but it takes ages to explain the debunk because, you know, they've oversimplified the problem to suit themselves. You've got to explain why it's not that simple. Anyway, and there's one last video I'm going to show for Taboo. How a pilot ended the globe. This is, I'm going to talk over this one. Obviously, the other one was, who was that bloke in the red and blue? He looked rather handsome to me. Rather fine physique too. But this one is supposedly a pilot. I think we're going to find he's not.
I wanted to quickly share a video from Pablo's dog.
Hang on. Why is everything so quiet? And I'll drop this down to 125. All right, away we go.
Just wanted to quickly share a video from Pablo's dog, who is an engineer who modeled the last time-lapse video that I had up on my channel.
He's an engineer, and he's using a ruler and a globe. I've got a feeling he's not an engineer. Anyway, let's see what happens.
That video was unjustly taken down by YouTube for a copyright strike. I'll have a link in the description to my full video on Odyssey. I'll also have a link to Pablo's dog's channel where you can go and subscribe.
If you got a copyright strike, it's because you breached copyright. If you didn't breach copyright, you can fight it. It's not unfair if you've actually broken it.
But this was the beginning position of the stars over Spain, and this was the ending position of the stars over Brazil, approximately 4,656 miles later. Pablo's dog modeled both the beginning and ending positions using a globe, and he included the alleged rotation of the Earth. As you will see, even when you include the rotation of the Earth, the globe does not match reality. Anyways.
Yes, I suspect something went wrong. I mean, if you're an engineer and you're doing it this way, you're not an engineer. A globe and a ruler? Anyway, it gets more ridiculous.
Enjoy.
So this is the setup to mimic a flight from Barcelona in the northern hemisphere to just above Sao Paulo. It's Belo Horizonte, or whatever how you pronounce it, which means beautiful horizon. It's a night flight, and it tracks the Milky Way the whole way. So I set up a globe here with the North Pole right here, South Pole right there, pointing right at the South Pole star. And I drew some star circles showing the east to west rotation of the stars if you're in a static location. And then I've got a straight edge here that's tangent to Barcelona there. And Barcelona is the right dot. I previously had it on the left dot. I was wrong. And I've got it aligned to fly toward Brazil. Okay.
Well, at least he understands great circle routes. Most flirps would have plotted this on a Mercator projection and said, see, it doesn't work. I just can't get over this guy's supposedly an engineer and he's using a globe, a back screen, and a ruler. It just blows my mind. Any engineer would model this on a computer. That way you get everything accurate. There's just so many margins of errors here. It's just not funny.
There's Brazil. The dot on the left is Belo Horizonte. And you can see that it points way up there. And so this would be the horizon right here that's seen at the start of the video and the field of view. So the Milky Way would be over here, kind of like at a 45-degree angle in the video from the cockpit. I think he had about a 45-degree field of view. So all the stars down here would be below the horizon. I mean, you can't see the southern pole star.
So in other words, he's assuming it's a globe.
From the northern hemisphere, for example. So that's the view of where the horizon would be approximately for Barcelona. And I'll do, Belo Horizonte next, just above Sao Paulo. But what I'll need to do is rotate the globe 90 degrees to account for the flight time, which was about 9 hours. And then when you...
Hang on. 9 hours. The Earth that moves at 15 degrees an hour, not 10.
Subtract off the speed of the Earth with the westward flight component of the flight, this vector going this way longitudinally, it slows down the apparent star rotation. So it's about 90 degrees instead of 135 degrees.
I'm not sure what to make of that. It slows down the apparent rotation. I guess you're taking away some of it in terms of the sky, I guess he's talking about, and the stars in the sky. Slows it down. Would it be by that much? I guess it depends on how much longitude there is difference between Barcelona and the target place. He can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to try. So it'd be 15 degrees per hour less that. Would it be less that or would it be plus that? I'll have to do some maths on this.
Change, as you can see in the video, the flight video anyway, which I'll reference. Okay, on to Brazil. So here's the setup for Belo Horizonte, Brazil. I've rotated the globe here from west to east 90 degrees, as I mentioned, to account for the alleged rotation of the Earth in the globe model and accounting for...
Oh, hang on. Does he mean, has he just done the differences based on time zones? Because that's not accurate, is it? It's not a solar-based thing. Like here in Brisbane, the time zone pretty much matches the solar, but you go out to Western Queensland, it doesn't, because it's like several thousand kilometers. I have to do some maths on this.
For the westward flight speed of the airplane flying from Europe to Brazil. So that's Belo Horizonte there, tangent, in the direction of the flight, approximately.
And what does this show? I've been waiting for him to make a point.
And you can see this would represent the horizon, This would represent the horizon from Brazil.
Why?
And up here was the horizon from
But what does that
Barcelona.
show? I don't understand.
So all these stars that are below the horizon at Barcelona, all the way down to here, this whole field of stars should have risen up during the flight, straight up in uniform motion, while still translating east to west, rotating. So there's two separate motions expected in the globe model. But we didn't see that in the video. there was, of course, there's stars rising up because of the Earth rotation, allegedly, and then rotating around and coming down, just like these star circles would indicate.
I have no idea if he's
And as you fly
making any
closer
sense
to
at
the
all.
South Pole, you head down this way, you're eventually going to see the South Pole star and the smaller circles around the South Pole star, the star circles in the south.
Well, that kind of makes sense because you are moving hemispheres from Barcelona to Brazil.
But that's about it.
That's about it? You haven't explained anything. I'll have to do the maths on that one. That makes very little sense. But anyway, I think that gives you a flavour of the sort of nonsense that Taboo is willing to put on his channel. And, like I said before, he doesn't do a lot of his own stuff. He gets pinches from other people. So anyway, I think it's time to jump to Meme Roundup. Hang on, let me just get them up. Okay, our first meme today. This is another thing flirts don't seem to understand. It's all speed is relative. And as you can see here, if you're on a roundabout, we call these, what do you call them in America? I forget. You'll experience that and you'll feel a sense of motion, but that's because you're going around in a circle, you're experiencing acceleration in different vectors. It's not a linear speed. And it's quite, in terms of rotation, which is, you don't measure rotation in kilometers per hour. That's the tangential velocity. You measure it in radians per minute or hour or whatever unit of time you want to use. And that determines how much acceleration there is. 100, I didn't know these got up to 100 kilometers an hour. But again, how many rotations per unit of time? And of course, you would feel more G-forces because there are more forces to make you rotate. But this, of course, is nowhere near a diameter of 8,000 miles, which the Earth has, which is 12,000 kilometers in real money. And for some reason, they think that should translate to us feeling massive G-forces. Well, this is the middle one's a merry-go-round. It was the first one I was asking about. We call those roundabouts here in Australia. And they think because you feel some forces on these, which are a much smaller diameter, on a large diameter, you'd feel a lot. That's the failure of critical thinking of flirts. They just can't put it together, can they? So this is, again, another failure of critical thinking. 4 different pictures of the Earth. We saw something similar yesterday from 4 different space agencies, and the Earth looks different in each of them. It never occurs to them that they might be from different altitudes, using different cameras, filmed at different times of the year, with different weather conditions. And this one in the bottom left looks like infrared more than anything else. So flirts don't, for some reason, they see this, don't understand it, therefore conspiracy. And just to prove that point, we saw the 4 different views of Earth here. Here's 6 different views of this bloke. He looks different in all of them. So does that mean he's fake? And this is just more flirt fantasy. Imagine, if you will, living on a ball spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, where it rains up instead of down, where water is held tightly to the ball by an imaginary force called gravity. Balloons and airplanes fly upside down without incident. Down is not south. If you understood that, you'd realize how stupid this is. Down is towards the center of the Earth. That solves all the problems that you just mentioned, the problems you perceive at least. Comply because the TV said so. What? TV like YouTube? I threw away my mind programming box years ago. You really should try it sometime. Now, this is meant to be a pro-flirt meme, but it really points out how brainwashed they are, because they watch YouTube videos and that kind of thing and listen to idiots rather than people who know what they're talking about, and they get brainwashed. But people who think for themselves, do tests for themselves, get information from reality rather than flirts, are immune to that. Critical thinking solves a lot of problems. And another flurf meme, do not confuse follow the science with follow the scientist. Science is objective and factual, correct? Scientists can be sold to the highest bidder. Also correct, but that's the beauty of science. When scientists are doing that sort of thing, and it doesn't happen that often because of this, science can be used to debunk them. And which is what we do to flurfs. And a nice one to finish off, the shape of the Earth in sort of pink. And the Earth is still a globe, but now in yellow. And that's meme roundup for today. Peer review, yes. Wally's saying that in the chat for those listening later. Where am I up to? Right. Have you seen a silly meme lately? Send it to me and I'll show it on the stream. Where's Wally? Sent me plenty. These ones I came up with myself today, so Wally's had a break. It's got to be fit for general consumption, of course. I'm not going to put up anything racist or violent or anything like that. My contact details in the description of this video, so you've got no excuse for sending it to me. Let me know if you'd like me to look. Oh, let me start again. Jeez, I'm getting into can't remember November already. Let me know who you'd like me to look at in the near future by leaving a comment below. I appreciate all suggestions. For tomorrow, I'm planning on looking at Bev, but particularly the Blackpool Black Swan image that brought Ranty back to sanity. Remember, I suffer through their channel so that you don't have to. Do the YouTube things. Give a like to this stream by clicking the thumbs up button. Subscribe. Click the join button and become a member like all my Jarsholes. Leave a comment. I love to read your comments. Thank you for the ones that have come through recently. I've really enjoyed those. And in particular, if you're one of the few who watch my videos who aren't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below this video on your screen right now. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And I think that just about does it. There's nothing left to do but cue the corgi.
You're despicable.